Coming up, folks, right here on this Friday morning edition of Breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. It's Vossy and Matt Russell this morning. Nice positive text to start the hour. This one still on a high after attending the Origin game in Melbourne. The crowd were amazing. I didn't hear anyone boo our Blues boys. The crowd did, however, sing "Good Night, Sweetheart" to the Queensland fans leaving early. Hilarious. Go well, Vossy and Matt. That's from Tony. And this one, Julian from Canberra. This is our newest listener who flew in from overseas this week. Julian A. from Canberra. He says, "Boys, can I enter the pie eating competition there at Wentworth Park via video link from Canberra? I'm a very good eater of meat, been practicing in South America." Julian A. from Canberra. And he's still actually putting in a complaint saying, what happened to 2CH? Julian Assange arrives back in the country. What happened to Tim Webster and 2CH? Mate, move on.
And Vossy, Michael, very quickly on the same theme. Do you reckon I could take my Labrador to Wendy Park for the pie eating contest tomorrow? He could go up against a few greyhounds later on as well. Michael, you can do whatever you want.
Now, we're all allowed to play our favourites, and I've got to say one of my favourite Olympians all time, not just because of what she achieved as a sports person, but every time that I've interviewed her or met her over the time, I just thought a great Australian. Anna Meares won 11 World Championships, 6 Olympic medals, including 2 gold over a 14-year cycling career. Certainly one of our greatest ever track cyclists. And now, post being an athlete, and it's a hell of a journey that she's been through, coming up at the Paris Olympics, and remember, we're now a month away, is the chef de mission, working with the sports and the AOC to make their job as stress-free as possible for the athletes. And it is a great pleasure and privilege to welcome Anna Meares to Breakfast with Vossy and Matty Russell this morning. Hi, Anna. How you doing?
Hi, Vossy. Hi, Matt. Thanks so much. That's very kind. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. This is quite a title. This is quite a responsibility. But I dare say in some ways also a career highlight, the position you have coming up at the Paris Olympics?
Look, I feel like I've got the best job in the world. There are honestly times where I sit there and wonder, what have I got myself into? But then there are other times where I sit there and I pinch myself. It's quite different going from being an athlete in the environment of the Olympic Games to working with the team behind the scenes to prepare for the next generation of athletes. And I didn't realise how many people and how much work goes on behind the scenes, but I just love being back a part of the team again, the green and gold, representing Australia, and maybe having a small impact in a positive way to an athlete who has no idea what I do now as chef.
Anna, Andrew touched on some of your accolades as we introduced you. Gold medals in Athens and London, 6 Olympic medals in total. The first Australian athlete to medal at 4 Olympics. You were flag bearer and captain in Rio. And as Andrew mentioned, chef de mission as we head towards Paris. But you've been in this role at the Birmingham Commonwealth Games. It's not called chef de mission, but it's the same sort of role. How did you find filling those shoes at the Commonwealth Games? And I will ask, was there one sport, one group of athletes that they're on a warning heading to Paris? You know, they need to pull their heads in. They need to behave themselves. Over to you.
I had the privilege to work under Patria Thomas as chef in Birmingham. I was one of her general managers or deputies. And it just reiterated the fact to me that it was where I wanted to be. And I get it, you know, I get what it's like to win in those environments, to lose, to absorb the hope and the expectations, to feel the nerves, and then to let all of that go as well. So no, there are no sports on any strikes or any warnings or anything carrying over into Paris. I've really enjoyed being a student of sport again, and we're just over 200 athletes selected for Paris, and more than half are debutants. And in the next couple of weeks, that will jump significantly up to about 460. So it's an enormous team of athletes, and then the whole delegation of the Olympic team will fit just under 1,000, just over 1,000 people that I'll manage on ground in Paris in just under a month's time.
Wow, big numbers. I got to tell, I don't think I've said this before. Back in the day, Channel 9, I was the Commonwealth Games village reporter when the games were in Melbourne. So I got to come into the inner sanctum and be in the village every day. I didn't sleep there, but I'd come in and out and be there all day and see the cafeteria and the lifestyle. It was pretty cool. But I ask you this, Anna, is it as cool now for athletes going to an Olympic Games as it was in your day, if I can put it that way?
No.
Do we get them in and out
cooler.
too quick? Are there any free? Oh, it's cooler, is it? Okay.
It's cooler now. It is absolutely cooler now because it is very much more a mindset around high performance for them. You think about it, these athletes have worked not just the 4-year cycle, but often their whole lifetime, and then their family commitment and the communities around them who have dedicated as well. For that one chance in 4 years to get it right for anywhere between 10 seconds and maybe a couple of hours if you've got the marathon races and the endurance stuff. So for them to be able to have a safe place in the village that they can call home away from home, but have everything that they need, like we provide them a high-performance gym. We've got the Woolworths Performance Pantry. So they've been overseas for a few months or weeks already, and they come in and they can get anything that's available at Woolworths that's familiar to them at home. Harvey Norman are putting in a lounge for them. So there's some really great things happening in terms of the support around the village space for the athletes. It's totally different to when I was there.
Yeah. All right. Now, is there a code in terms of rubbing shoulders? You walk around the village and you do a bit, like I did it as a reporter, you do a bit of stargazing, like you recognise from afar.
You do.
And the athletes, is there a code? Are you allowed in these days of phones and selfies? Are the Australian athletes allowed just to encourage to go up and introduce themselves? Can I get a selfie with you?
Well,
if there was
it's a pretty rare opportunity
notes?
for them to walk in and sit next to some pretty incredible athletes of the world. I remember I was picking up my washing in Beijing behind a set of cars and I thought, this bloke's got to be a sprinter. He's got to be a sprinter. And then this laundry just turned into utter chaos because they lost this laundry bag. It turns out it was Rafa Nadal, and I'm just standing there going, how am I standing in line trying to collect my washing behind Rafa Nadal? These are just moments where you sit there and go, how is this possible? It's a really crazy environment, but what I think it boils down to, and it's hard for debutants to get their head around, is they are just like you in so many ways. They just have this love of their sport, their love of their country, and they're there to work as hard as possible to be as successful as they can. And at the end of the day, they're actually pretty humble and pretty human, just like all of us.
Then you got to keep it secret that Rafa was picking up his leopard skin and pink undies, and you've done that very, very well indeed, Anna. When it comes to chef de mission, and you've filled in a similar role previously, what are some of the requests? Just take us inside the life of the chef de mission and some of the weird and wonderful things that might cross your desk during the Olympics.
Oh, well, I'm yet to get there, so I'll let you know. But my role is largely about relationships, so it's getting to know all the sports and athletes on the Australian team, every member of the Australian Olympic Committee staff. It's getting to know the Paris Organising Committee staff, the IOC staff, so that at the end of the day, if something comes across my desk that's a problem for the sports and the athletes, I can try and resolve it with my team as quickly as possible. We know where to go to get that moving for them. So, it's not that I've had anything really weird come across my desk. It's just, I think I've also been tapped into a little bit as a mentor in some capacities, not just for athletes, but for coaches as well, which is nice because I feel close enough to having been a high-performance athlete to offer something and still capable to give an athlete insight into this role now for the staff that I'm working with. So nothing too funky yet, but ask me after the game.
Okay, well, you've got to get to know the athletes. You said you want to know their stories as best you can, as many of them as you can. Is there someone or a group of athletes, aside from cycling, where you obviously have a leaning that you're really excited about, that you can build up the Olympics and continue to build up right here on Brekkie with Vossy and Brandy? Give us an athlete you're really excited about their story.
Oh, there's a few. Cassiel Russo from diving, obviously, he spearheads that team with Mel Wu at her 5th Games. Cassiel's grandfather won Olympic gold in Melbourne in 1956 in track sprint cycling, and now heads to Paris to try and do the same for Australia in a different sport. So that's a fascinating story. We've got an incredible boxing team. We've got the strongest and biggest boxing team that is the most diverse team we've ever had. We've got our first Indigenous female boxer. We've got our first Muslim female boxer. And we've just got so many great stories in that sport. Brianna Whitehead, who's our kiteboarder in the sailing team. She's a mechanical engineer who built her own board with her dad in the backyard. So she'll be competing on equipment that she's built herself and designed herself. I could go on. Their stories are just fascinating and intrinsic. I've loved learning about sailing. I've loved learning that our shooting team has athletes right across the board, from doctors to personal trainers to politicians, and everyone's working in their everyday life to support their sporting ventures as well. So these are people who are already well embedded into our communities, and the impact that they will be able to have as Olympians will just be quite profound. But I really do encourage people to listen to the stories, because they're great people and they've been through some hell of experience.
Now, Anna, one final question about your career, and this I want to know regarding these medals. Your first gold medal comes in Athens, and to win an Olympic gold medal at Athens, special. In London, you win another gold, and you beat your arch rival Victoria Pendleton. But in between, you pick up silver after your career was almost ruined by a broken neck, and what an achievement. So if you could keep one Olympic medal, the most special one, which is it? Your first Olympic gold.
Bang, just
Your first Olympic gold.
Top turnbuckle stuff.
Beating your arch rival, or the silver in Beijing. As I was looking at your career, I'm thinking, I bet you that silver. You know, it's not the same colour as the golds, but I bet you it's special. So how do you differentiate between all those highlights?
Phone a friend.
Matt, you're asking me to choose between my kids.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, you're asking me to choose between my kids. Look, I say my Beijing silver is my white gold.
Okay, I like that. Yeah.
And look, for what I went through, my Beijing silver, but for the preparation and the execution, I can't go past London 2012.
Okay.
Big rivalry. I never want to feel what I felt on that start line ever again in my life. But I'm glad that I was one half of what brought a big spotlight to my sport. Women's track sprint cycling was really highlighted at those games. So I can't pick. I'm sorry.
That's fascinating. That's fascinating. I love that. I love
Matt
that.
Russell 1, Anna Meares 0.
I like the white gold. That's great.
Yeah, no, I like that line. Anna, the ever-smiling Anna Meares, we're all incredibly proud, and as you should be, of what you achieved in your athletic career, and now you get to pass on that experience and experience something new yourself as chef de mission of the Australian Olympic team. Enjoy the experience. We really appreciate your time on the show today.
Thanks, Vossy. Thanks, Matt.
Good on you, Anna Meares. And Vossy, you know, Anna won 18 golds in total. If you combine World Championships, Commonwealth Games and Olympics, 18 gold medals. Imagine going to a dinner party at Anna Meares' house, and they've got the long table, and each table setting has a gold medal as a coaster for your drinks. That'd be pretty cool. And the special guests get the Olympic golds.
Yeah, and the next day you say, Anna, how about we go to Wentworth Park? I'll return the favour. No, that's how it goes.
That's good. That's what it leads
to. Take it to the 3 days and Garlo's Pies and the Dogs.